You assume longing means absence, that you long for what you do not have. You treat it as proof of incompleteness, a sign that something essential is missing. You try to end it through effort, possession, or distraction. Yet Rumi reversed this assumption. He said longing is not a wound, but a revelation, the sign of divine nearness disguised as distance. When you desire truth, it is truth desiring itself through you. What appears as your movement toward the divine is the divine moving through awareness. Rumi called this longing the soul's most honest state, because only when you feel its pull do you stop mistaking yourself for the center of will. If what you seek already stirs your seeking, can longing still mean distance, or is it presence you have not yet understood? Rumi lived in 13th century Persia, trained as a scholar of law and theology. His life was defined by precision, order, and mastery of religious thought. But everything changed when he met Shams of Tabriz, a wandering mystic, whose presence unsettled his entire understanding of knowledge and faith. What began as admiration became unbearable longing. When Shams disappeared, Rumi discovered that this longing did not end with loss. It intensified into awakening. Through it, he learned that desire itself is the sign of divine remembrance, not a human failure, but the voice of the infinite echoing within awareness, that you often treat longing as a weakness. You want it to be resolved, cured, or replaced with contentment. But Rumi asked you to look closer. He said the ache of longing is awareness remembering its source. What feels like lack is actually recognition, the trace of the real within consciousness. The mind interprets it as desire because it cannot yet see what the heart already knows. Longing is not directed outward. It turns you inward. It exposes the illusion that fulfillment lies in what can be possessed. When you stop resisting the ache and allow it to speak, does it not already whisper the truth it seeks? That what you call desire is the memory of unity reawakening within you. Rumi taught that genuine desire originates not in the human will, but in the divine will expressing itself through the human form. What you call my yearning is the divine calling itself into consciousness. Every true longing is the real remembering itself in you. But the mind, claiming ownership, turns this sacred motion into personal craving. Rumi warned that when desire serves illusion, it becomes bondage. When it serves remembrance, it becomes freedom. The question is not whether you desire, but who is desiring through you. If every movement of the heart comes from the same source, is longing something you possess, or something possessing you? You believe longing separates you from what you love. You'd call it distance and imagine two realities, the seeker and the sought. Yet Rumi saw this as the mind's misreading. He said longing is not a gap between two beings, but the bridge that proves they are already connected. When you feel drawn towards something higher, it is not you reaching upward, but reality drawing you inward. The ache of yearning is not the voice of separation, but of nearness. The mind divides what the heart has already joined. If longing connects rather than divides, what does it say about the nature of love itself? You once believed you could manage desire, refine it, discipline it, or silence it. But Rumi pointed to a subtler transformation. Stop identifying as the one who desires. Observe desire as it arises. Do not call it mine. When you cease claiming it, it purifies itself. What was once agitation becomes direction. Longing turns from restlessness to recognition. You no longer chase the divine as an object outside you. You become the space where the divine moves. When the self stops trying to possess its longing, Awareness recognizes that the longing itself belongs to the real. If desire is not yours, then who or what has been doing the seeking all along? Rumi taught that longing is never one-sided. Just as you long for God, God longs to be known through you. Creation itself is the field of this mutual desire, the infinite seeking to experience itself through the finite. The human heart becomes the meeting point of two movements, the real reaching toward expression and awareness, reaching toward its source. This reciprocity dissolves the hierarchy between lover and beloved. When you feel drawn toward truth, it is not a one-way act of devotion, but the continuation of an eternal dialogue. If both sides of longing are the same voice, who remains to be apart from whom? You imagine that peace lies in the end of longing, that fulfillment will silence desire. But Rumi saw that longing never truly ends. It evolves. Every satisfaction opens a deeper dimension of yearning. The object was never the goal. It was only the form through which awareness learns the nature of its own movement. Longing is the pulse of being, the rhythm by which consciousness stays awake to its origin. To want it to stop is to want awareness to fall asleep again. If the purpose of longing is not to be fulfilled but to stay awake, can peace ever mean its disappearance? For Rumi, longing is a form of knowledge, not emotional need, but intuitive understanding. When intellect reaches its boundary, longing begins. It is how awareness recognizes the real beyond reasoning. The heart's ache is not ignorance. It is comprehension without words. It knows what the mind cannot name. Each time you feel the pull toward what cannot be possessed, you are encountering the nearness of truth. In that moment, longing is not the path to knowledge. It is knowledge itself, taking the form of desire. If longing already knows its destination, what is the purpose of searching at all? You began by assuming longing was lack, an emptiness to be filled. Now you see it as fullness revealing itself. Rumi's hidden path does not ask you to end desire, but to understand it as divine expression. Every genuine longing is the movement of the real through awareness, the infinite knowing itself through you. What once felt like distance now feels like intimacy. The ache remains, but its meaning changes. It no longer points to what is missing, but to what never left. When you finally see that longing itself is the presence you were searching for, seeking ends naturally, not in fulfillment, but in understanding. What more could longing reveal once you recognize it as the divine itself? The mind still asks what to do with longing, but the answer lies not in action, only in awareness. When you cease to resist it or claim it, longing stands revealed as pure attention, awareness facing its own source. This is why Rumi called longing a prayer without words. It contains no demand, no end, only direction. To live with longing is to live awake. You no longer measure it by satisfaction, but by clarity. In its light, every desire finds its rightful place as expression, not error. When longing no longer hides itself as pain, what remains is stillness, not because something ended, but because nothing was ever apart. You began by thinking longing meant absence. You end by realizing it is the surest sign of divine presence. Rumi's teaching does not replace desire with renunciation. It reveals its true origin. Longing is not the distance between you and God. It is the conversation through which God recognizes himself in you. The ache you once called human now appears as divine memory. Nothing needs to be removed, only understood. Every longing points not forward, but inward, toward what was always whole. When you see that longing is the divine revealing itself, seeking falls silent. The question of distance dissolves. What you longed for was never elsewhere. It was the one who longed. The journey begins with the familiar belief that longing is lack, an emotional deficiency to be cured. Through Rumi's vision, it transforms into an understanding that longing is divine remembrance, the infinite expressing itself through awareness. Each stage unfolds a deeper realization that longing is not personal, not separation, and not something to be resolved. It is the dynamic through which being knows itself. The movement shifts from misunderstanding to transformation, from self-centered desire to divine reciprocity, and finally to stillness, where longing and fulfillment are seen as one movement of the real. What you once called absence was always present, speaking in another language. And the ache you resisted was God remembering himself through you.